All right, in this lecture, we are going to look at how much media hosting do I need. And right now, let's talk about stereo. And if you were publishing in stereo at 64 kilobits per second, it would be basically AM radio quality. If you published at 96 kilobits per second, it would be FM quality. And CD quality, again, stereo, is 128 kilobits per second. So AM radio, FM radio, and CD quality at those particular settings. So let's look at this in matters of how many megs is that. Well, at 64 AM radio quality, it's basically half a meg a minute. At FM radio quality, it's 0.77 megs a minute. At 128 CD quality, it's 1 meg a minute. Well, if you do a 20-minute podcast, that means at AM radio quality, you're going to have 10 megs. At FM radio quality, you're going to need 15 megs. And at CD quality, you're going to need 20 megs per episode. So if you do one podcast a week and you're doing CD quality, that would be 80 megs of media hosting a month you would need. If you're doing AM radio, that would be 42 megs a month. And again, FM 96, you would need 61 megs per month. But let's take a look at what CD quality is when it's stereo. It's actually just two 64 megabyte channels side by side. So back in the 60s, you would have maybe a guitar on one side and bass on the other. It was basically two 64 kilobits per second channels side by side, and that allowed you to have stereo separation. You might have a guitar on one side and another guitar on the other. Well, with podcasting, if you're doing a talk show, aside from your opening and closing music and things of that nature, you don't really need stereo separation. So what you can do to achieve CD quality but not be stereo is to just take one 64 kilobit per second channel, and in that you will have your voice and your music. And again, your music won't have stereo separation, but it really doesn't sound that bad, especially if the majority of your podcast is just people talking. So what does that mean? Well, now you don't need as much media hosting because your file size is cut in half. So now the 64 is no longer AM radio. This is actually now CD quality. And if you go up the ranks, 96, 128, these are almost not needed because 64 is CD quality. It's just not stereo. So if we just look at that, 64, a 20-minute podcast now is only 5 megs, which means I can get away if I do one podcast a week for 20 minutes a week. For a whole month, I would only need 20 megs. So if we look at the pricing over at Libsyn, you can see where you don't need to spend that much money depending on what you're looking for. I only need 20 megs. I could probably get away with, let's say, the Classic 50. Now, if I'm looking for the better stats, I still want to go with maybe the App 400 so I can get the advanced stats, which would be $20 a month. But I could probably get away with the Classic 50 with the $2 a month for the additional stats, maybe, depending on what you're looking at. If I was looking at Blueberry, you can see I could do $12 a month and get 100 megs a month, and that does include stats. So that's one way to look at your how much media hosting do you need. If we go back to that one slide, basically it's this. If you're going to do mono, it's only 0.26 megs a minute. So basically divide the number by 4 and you've got it. So here, if I were to do a 20-minute, divide that by 4, it's basically 5 megs an episode. And then you can look at how many times you're going to publish, how long you're going to publish, and that will allow you to calculate how much space you need. And when you know how much space you need per month, you can then figure out the price at both Libsyn and Blueberry.